And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to World Talks here on TVP World, where every word matters. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. Please join me and my guest on this exclusive interview. Now we are going to be talking about the topic of sports. The dust has settled and of course emotions are still running high, but we have our very own in-house sports expert to give us a little bit of dissection of this Euro 2024 Football Cup. Hello and welcome.
Thank you very much, Ben. Nice to be here.
Now we do know that if Spain was able to take the entire tournament, would you say that they are the deserved winners of the tournament?
Absolutely. Quite simply, they were the outstanding team of the tournament by quite a stretch. They won all 7 of their matches. And not only that, they were convincing from start to finish. And they defeated probably all of the best teams in the tournament. They saw off, the Germans, the French, and in the final, the English. And, on the other side of the draw, you had England, who went through and had very easy games, relatively speaking. And so not only did Spain win all of their matches, but they actually did it in style, which was something really special, because not only did they impress, were they solid defensively, but they excited going forward. And I have to say, in my opinion, they were the real team who played with an actual true identity. They were very clear about who they are, how they express themselves, and it rather felt, everything they did felt very innate. And so what I mean by that is it feels to me as if from the very youngest ages, when they play as teenagers, the Spain, let's say under 15s, and all the way up to the senior team, they play with the same identity. Now, previously, years gone by, they would play with this very what was known as tiki-taka. So this is very, very slow, very patient, very short passing game. And in all honesty, most neutrals found that pretty dull. Now they're a lot more vertical and get the ball forward a lot quicker. They have faster players and they're a lot more dynamic for it. And as I said, they really seem to know who they are, how they play, and how to go about winning games.
Is that why most of the neutral observers, if they don't have a particular team that they were rooting for in the first place, are so drawn to the Spanish team?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were just a joy to watch. Every game that they played, it was, you were guaranteed goals, and something exciting was going to happen, basically. So that, yeah, fundamentally, I think they were the neutrals' favourites, and they were absolutely the deserved winners of this tournament.
Speaking of deserved winner, and of course talking about the team that they played up against, now England have lost the last 2 consecutive European Championship finals. Do you think it's just down to bad luck?
Well, yes and no. I think that it's certainly in this tournament, England have stumbled through the tournament, to say the least. And they started off through the group games looking very cumbersome, very slow, lacking the identity which I mentioned that the Spaniards have, and generally looking out of sorts. And even in the next rounds, they needed last-minute goals to see them through. Then at the quarters, they played the Swiss and looked slightly better. And then they played the Netherlands in the semis and started to convince a bit more. And I think, English people started then to believe that, oh, OK, yeah, we've been pretty awful, really, in all honesty, throughout the tournament, barely scoring any goals. Hardly winning any games even, just stumbling through, drawing, getting last-minute winners, penalties, etc. So the belief was there in the end, but I think ultimately I wouldn't say that they were the best team in the tournament. I'm not even sure that they were the third best team in the tournament. Yeah, I think sort of the French and the Germans are still better than them. So on that level, were they unlucky? Not really. And then going back to the previous tournament where they were beaten by Italy on home soil, again, I think they were beaten by the better team. So I don't think it's down to bad luck. I think it's unfortunate, obviously, to get to 2 finals and lose. But I think on both occasions, they couldn't say they were the best team at the Euros.
All right, and of course, when we're talking about sports, a lot of focus is put on key players. So I'm wondering if you can list some of the most important, most influential players of this Euro Cup.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's get the obvious ones out of the way first. So, officially named player of the tournament, you had the Spanish midfielder Rodri, who was absolutely outstanding and is frankly just the boss of all midfielders. He's absolutely complete central midfielder. And you had the young player of the tournament, Lamine Yamal, and he was obviously outstanding, and he's the person that everybody's talking about because he literally just turned 17 at the weekend. So he's the name on everyone's lips. And then, of course, you had Nico Williams, who scored in the final. So, yeah, those two Spanish youngsters are the ones which a lot of people are talking about. But I think there should also be some honourable mentions for those who didn't get quite as far in the tournament. So I would also pick out Mamardashvili, who was the Georgian goalkeeper, who I thought was absolutely brilliant, towering guy, enormous limbs, so he was great. I thought perhaps the best central defender was Toni Rüdiger of Germany, and I would say on a par with Williams and Yamal as exciting wingers was Jamal Musiala, who plays for Germany. Also excellent. We should also pick out probably an England player, but as they reached the final, you know, they didn't have many outstanding individuals. Sorry, I should correct myself. They do have outstanding individuals. However, none of them particularly shone consistently. I would probably pick out John Stones, who was a real rock in central defence, and he was extremely impressive there. So
Stone, rock, I see what you did there.
Yeah, so I mean that's maybe as well. I've mentioned best fullback for me was Theo Hernandez of France. Conversely, perhaps we should also mention though those who were less impressive. So coming into this tournament, you know, if you were going to list who are the players we should look out for, who are the star names, well, I think people were automatically gravitating towards Kylian Mbappe of France, and he had a really poor tournament by his standards. And it seemed to me that he, if you remember, he had his nose broken early on in the tournament. And I think this really rattled him. You know, he was forced to play most of the matches with a mask. He said this damaged his, or not damaged, but rather he had less peripheral vision, let's say. And yeah, I think he played within himself, you know, slightly nervous, you have a broken nose, you're cautious all the time. So I think that affected him. England captain Harry Kane is absolute legend of England, and I have the utmost respect for him, England's all-time top scorer. And he even, as you mentioned earlier, was one of the top scorers in the tournament, albeit with just 3 goals. But again, he was very underwhelming, really looked out of sorts and just exhausted. And the other one probably to mention is Cristiano Ronaldo,
right,
who, at 39, that was his last European Championships. And yeah, he doesn't look capable of playing at the highest level anymore.
All right, 2 of the biggest names, household names, which is probably Ronaldo and Lewandowski, and both of them didn't do particularly well. Do you think it's just kind of a past your age kind of thing, or do you think there's any other factor at play?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I mean, Ronaldo's 39. There's no other player, you know, playing in attack at that age, at this level. And there's a reason for that. It's simply legs don't allow you to be as explosive as you once were. And especially attackers, they rely on pace or rather acceleration more than anything. And there's no way of going about not losing that. So, yeah, I mean, as for Lewandowski, you know, some of the criticism's been a little bit harsh. You know, he missed the first few games. And also he plays in, you know, a team which doesn't really provide him with many chances, if we're being honest. So he has to do a lot of the work himself. So I wouldn't be overly critical of Robert Lewandowski. And and to be honest, the Poland team in general, you know, let's be honest, it was about par for the course for them. You know, just unfortunately being eliminated at the group stages. You know, perhaps in the future there'll be a brighter generation of players coming through, and expectations will rightly be higher.
All right. When we look at this particular tournament, were there any defining features and anything that you can pinpoint to as the defining characteristic of a tournament?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing I think of first of all is when we have had the last couple of major tournaments. By that I mean World Cups, European Championships. So 2022 we had Qatar World Cup. And before that, we had the Euros, which had to be later moved. It was in the middle of the pandemic, and it was played then across England, and it was all kind of a bit more spontaneously organised. And obviously there was crowd restrictions because of the... no need to explain.
Logistic nightmare.
Exactly. And my point is that it didn't really allow fans to really congregate, to really come, to join in. You know, it's difficult getting to Qatar at the time of pandemic, difficult to travel abroad. And the difference is now, we had the European Championships, it was in Germany, it was Central Europe, and all the fans could much more easily congregate. And I think that really made it a special event for the fans.
All right. Thank you so much, John, for this update. And of course, has been Jon Carter, our very own sports correspondent. We'll be seeing more of him soon. And in the meantime, this concludes this edition of our interview. For more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.